Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
I'm going to try something a little different today. I'm going to start the program off with a number of facts. I think important facts. Facts that may surprise you, facts that may intrigue you, facts that make you a little bit upset. And please feel free to comment at any time. For example, I'm going to start off with something right out of the blue here. Did you know that Israel today is one of the few nations on earth governed by its indigenous people? Now, wait a minute. Don't get upset. It's true. Jews have lived in what is now Israel since biblical times. In fact, even before biblical times. Israel is the ancestral home of Jews. So Jews are the indigenous people, the native people of what is now the state of Israel. It's a country, of course, attacked, conquered countless times. I mean, the Bible records, I don't know how many times it was conquered and the people, but always, what is now the state of Israel, that area, has been home to the Jew. And one of the, a lot of people don't know, one of the reasons that there has been so much persecution in the early days, in biblical times of Jews, is because it was the first religion that believed in one God. All the other religions believed in all sorts of gods. The Egyptians even worshiped cats, as you know. So there's a fact that I found very interesting. When you stop and think about it, I mean, we're dealing with indigenous problems here now. We're fully aware of that. Up and down the flag goes, of course. But in Israel, it is the indigenous people, the Jews, who now inhabit, not totally inhabit, but certainly govern that land. Now, there's another factor that I thought I would present to you. Did you know? Now, John, I asked you this, and you were very good. You were very close in your bet. Did you know that almost 2 million Arabs live in Israel with full citizenship rights, including the right to vote in the Knesset, the federal election, and municipal elections? 20.95% of Israel's population, that is 1,890,000 people, are Arabs. And of that, 83% are Muslim. So those people who claim that Israel is an apartheid state don't know what the hell they're talking about, or they're just bigots. The fact of the matter is that Arabs, there were a few thousand Arabs in what is now the state of Israel, immediately following the Second World War. That number has risen to almost 2 million. So it's some apartheid state, right? And once again, I want to point out, and I have checked this, I wasn't certain, but yes, Arabs who are citizens, and I say 1,890,000 Arabs who identify as Arabs now live, work, go to the mosques or whatever in Israel, and they have full voting rights, including the right to form their own political parties, and in fact, which they have done, and full right to vote in municipal elections and in federal elections. So they have exactly the same rights as Jews and those of other religions. If you're a Christian and a citizen of Israel, you have the same rights. There's no prejudice there. Here is another fact, okay? Totally different. I'm just throwing these out. Ontario's Auditor General says almost 40% of your hydro bill this month is there for no other reason but to pay for green energy, windmills and solar panels. 3 years ago, that same Auditor General said that green energy had thus far cost Ontario ratepayers, taxpayers, $38 billion. Just thought I would throw that out once more. Here's another fact, talking about taxpayers' money and where it goes and why. if anybody cares. Fact: the 277 Canadians who attended the G20 summit in Rome and Glasgow. I'm not quite sure why they went to Rome, but most of these 277 apparently went to Rome as well as Glasgow. They flew in at least 40 different jets. That's all I've been able to find out. 40 different jets as far as we know. And it is estimated that about 1/3 of them flew first class at a cost of about $3,000 each, just for the airfare. Oh, well, it's only taxpayers' money, right? Now, here is a strange fact. John, listen to this. You wonder sometimes if the world is going cuckoo, or maybe it's already gone cuckoo. What's your guess on that one?
I suspect it's way past gone to cuckoo.
Listen to this. I mean, sometimes you just have to shake your head. A Calgary University professor says she will not use capital letters in her name or anywhere else unless it pertains to Indigenous people. Linda Manyguns, associate professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary, made the decision to support the movement for equality. She says, I'm not making this up, folks. I couldn't make this up. She says, using capital letters shows complicity with systems of oppression. She's urging us all to join what she calls the lowercase movement. Hey, wait a minute. This woman is a professor. This woman is teaching our children. We are paying this woman probably well in excess of $150,000 a year, plus God knows what benefit to try and educate our children. And she's not going to use capital letters because they are symbols of oppression. Oh, by the way, Professor Manyguns, if you really want to destroy all signs of oppression, I think you should change your name. I mean, after all, you get this, eh? Manyguns. Natives, indigenous people, they didn't bring guns to this country. It was the oppressor who brought the guns. The white man brought guns. Okay, the white man brought the wheel, and they brought guns. So Professor Manyguns. Oh my God! Just have to shake your head. And you know what? Our university is filled with people like this. Pointy-headed idiots. Fact. Now, this is a fact that some of you know, but I keep repeating it because it doesn't seem to be registering. Canada, well, I've done the checking. Canada this year has dropped the amount of imported oil a little bit because of the pandemic. We weren't on the roads quite as much, et cetera, et cetera. So this year, instead of spending $19 billion on foreign freaking oil, we will only be spending $18 billion. $18 billion for American, Saudi Arabia, Venezuelan, and Russian oil. One of the really great things about this fact that I really love is the fact that we, on average, sell our oil, the little bit that the United States will take because they would prefer it from Russia and Saudi Arabia, just as we. For some reason, North Americans, Canadians, and Americans prefer Saudi Arabian oil and Russian oil to our own oil. I have no idea, but they do. So anyway, the bulk of the foreign oil comes from the United States, with a good chunk from Saudi Arabia. But we sell our oil to the United States probably $20 to $30 a barrel less than they sell it back to us. Honest to God. Have a look. I think right now oil is selling at around $80 on the on the market. But our price to the Americans are paying $60 to us. I mean that because they have no competition. Essentially, the Americans can pay us whatever they want because we have no means of getting our oil to any other market, foreign market. We haven't even got means to get it to our own market. 1/3 of Canada, about half of Quebec, and all of the maritime provinces do not have access to Canadian oil because Quebecers refused to allow a pipeline called Energy East. Just thought I would throw that out. I know I've had that figure out there before, but it bears repeating. It's an interesting fact. Maritime provinces and about half of Quebec is forced to buy foreign oil. They don't have a choice. Don't have a choice because of Quebec, which, by the way, this year will get about $9 billion in equalization payment, most of it from Alberta and Saskatchewan, which are virtually bankrupt. And talking about oil, here's another fact. I apparently am the only journalist of any kind in Canada that's concerned about Line 5. I've talked about this many times. So I checked again this morning with the governor of the state of Michigan. By this time, her secretary, I believe it's her secretary, she never quite tells me, knows who I am, calls me the podcaster from Canada. I'm the podcaster from Canada, okay?
Well, you kind of are.
So I say, what's happening with Line 5? Oh, we're going to shut it down, she says. I thought there were no negotiations have stopped. We have the governor, she says, has no interest in restarting negotiations. It's now before one of the courts in the United States, and we believe that the court is going to rule in our favor, and we're going to shut down Line 5. So I just thought I'd pass that on. Not that anybody gives a damn that we would be left with only about half the oil and gas and half the propane that we now have in Ontario and Quebec. But apparently it's of no great concern to anybody. And I've got to insert a little story here. Yeah. Here's another fact. We'll get off oil for a while, okay? John,
Yes, sir.
you're a pretty hip, pretty cool guy. You're pretty plugged in. Well, plugged anyway.
What does that mean?
No, you're plugged in. You're a real plugged in, cool guy.
All right, thanks.
Just take a guess. What Canadian city do you think has the highest homicide rate?
In Canada,
Yeah.
homicide rate, London, Ontario, I think is up there. Maybe Windsor.
No. Winnipeg.
Yeah,
Winnipeg has the highest murder rate of any Canadian city. There were 41 murders in Winnipeg in 2020. Believe it or not, Toronto had a much lower murder rate, at least per capita. In Toronto, there was 105 homicides in 2020. Ottawa recorded only 10 homicides in 2020. Now, but to give you an idea of how serious this matter is in the United States, any idea what American city has the highest homicide rate? I know I'm hitting you cold here, but because I didn't know, to be honest with you.
I mean, my inclination is to say, the obvious usual suspects, right? Your Detroits, your Los Angeleses.
Detroit is close. Detroit has the fourth worst record homicide rate in the United States. The worst, believe it or not, is St. Louis.
Really?
St. Louis, Missouri has the highest homicide rate in the United States. We'd always thought Chicago, and we're always hearing of the multiple slayings in Chicago. Yeah. But Chicago, on a percentage basis, per capita basis, is one of the safer cities. It's only 28th. I'll tell you another very serious one. Detroit, as I say, is number 4. Buffalo is about number 5 or 6. Cleveland is a very dangerous city as well. Just to give you an idea, 105 murders in Toronto with a population of about 9 million. St. Louis, 263 murders in a population about 1/3 that of Toronto. So, in other words, do the math, rough math. St. Louis has about 6 times as many homicides per capita as does the city of Toronto. So we're pretty fortunate so far.
Any idea why St. Louis? It seems like such a...
I think it's mostly a racial thing, to be honest with you. Okay. And the same thing in many of the cities. Not entirely, but largely. One of the interesting things is that New York City is one of the safer cities, and for this we can thank Rudy Giuliani. Right. When Rudy Giuliani came in as mayor, I forget the year now. It was a city that was a disaster zone, drugs everywhere. he came in and he got really, really tough. The broken wind, remember the broken windows philosophy?
Yep.
He just, and he gave police the power to break up gangs, to do everything, stuff that you couldn't do in Canada today. And he reduced the crime rate and the drug rate in New York to way, way down. It's one of the New York City, and once again, thanks to Rudy Giuliani, one of the safer cities in the United States today. So, but Ottawa, we're pretty lucky here too. A population of about 1 million, and we had 10. Not that we should be boasting, but we had only 10 murders in 2020. Some more facts. We got any comments coming in on any of this, John?
A couple here and there. Of course, we're kind of all over the place with different facts and figures, so trying to keep up with it and get it all in sync is
Sure.
kind of a challenge. But Laurentian Buteri says the elites won't worry about Line 5 shutting down until there's no energy to heat their cappuccino. Ann says, tell me again why I should go out there and mingle with these crazies. Mike says, something I can't understand is they say only half the world is fully vaccinated. This blows my mind after all this time. If they really want to get herd immunity, they must share the blueprint to manufacture more and get this done. He realizes this is not the topic today, but he adds this should be the number one priority right now, to get as many people vaccinated as possible, not for these companies to make more profit.
In that regard, let me throw out another fact here. Despite criticism of Doug Ford, and some of it is justified, concerning his efforts to fight COVID, today, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, folks, but on a per capita basis, Ontario appears to have the best record in North America, including the United States and Mexico, in fighting the virus. On a per capita basis, from all of the figures that I have been able to obtain, and they're quite extensive, Ontario has fewer overall cases, fewer in hospital, and fewer deaths than any other jurisdiction in North America. That's on a per capita basis. Let me give you an example. Quebec, for example, has about 1/3 fewer population, but almost twice as many deaths from COVID in Quebec as in Ontario. So all of that criticism about Doug and lockdowns, and it could very well be that he went overboard on this, but at least it's very clear that he saved lives and he saved a good many hospitalizations. Some people think it was too stringent, too tough, and it was stringent and it was tough. There's no question about it. But in the end, today, I could be wrong, but I can find no figures anywhere in the United States or Canada or Mexico where they have fewer overall cases, fewer people in hospital, and fewer deaths. I mean, the United States. It's just wild what's happening there. I mean, anyway, I'll move on. Yes, you're right. Shields, got to do Shields, because I like doing Shields. Because you know why? Because people who listen to me once in a while, there's the odd person who listens to me, and they do buy their appliance at Shields. They're very, very pleased. It's old-fashioned Ottawa Valley service. Yes, sir. No, sir. Madam. Yes, ma'am. And very polite, very honest. If they tell you a price, that's it. If they tell you the delivery will be at such and such a time, that's it. That's the way they do business at Shields. That's the Ottawa Valley way of doing business. Prices, well, cost of doing business in Pakenham a little bit lower than, let's say, a major mall here in Ottawa, and they pass those savings on to you. They have, Shields has existed since 1947 because they've done business the right way. Check them out. They've got an excellent website, a really, really New York style, a top website. No matter what kind of an appliance you want, you will see it there. You'll see it in color, the different brands, the different prices, and the savings. Shields.ca. Yes, John.
Carrie is listening in Guatemala, and she is so excited at the progress and the success that Canada's had with vaccines, and she congratulates all in Canada. She listens in from afar and is often jealous. Cindy says, maybe you should talk about the adverse reaction and death from this jab. Don't just go one way on the topic. You're new to the show. Okay.
That's right. Let's deal with the name.
Yep.
It's only saved millions of lives.
Yep.
And is finally cutting down the pandemic.
Yep.
But there have been 56 million doses administered in Canada, and of that, there have been about 200 reactions serious enough to keep people overnight, and there have been a couple of deaths. 56 million doses administered in Canada, 200 serious allergic reactions. Can I tell you something, folks? All of you doubters out there, give it up. Do you know what is more dangerous to take than a vaccine? The birth control pill. Do you know what else is more dangerous to take? Overall figures prove it. Aspirin. You are in more danger of serious allergic reaction from taking aspirin and certainly birth control pills than you are getting a vaccine. Those are facts. Those are scientific facts, okay? I'm not making this stuff up. I couldn't make that up anyway. It's all there. And anybody, all you got to do is Google. I mean, getting the facts today is so easy. Just Google. I mean, don't Google some obscure, website coming out of Upper Rubber Boots, Saskatchewan, with some guy that believes that plowed beets will somehow cure you of diphtheria. I mean, come on, folks, get into the 21st century. It's the year of our Lord, 2021. We've had vaccines for well over 100 years. They have saved millions of lives. Yes, John, more comments?
And we've had Google vaccines, and we've had COVID vaccines since SARS. Cindy's argument is, and who owns Google?
Oh. The baby Jesus. Didn't you know that? You just Google that. I mean, who owns Google? Oh, my God. John, do you go on Google?
I go on Google all the time. Listen, the thing with Google is if I go to Google right now and type in, do pink hippopotamuses with tiny penises who fart rainbows exist, I will find something on Google that tells me that yes, they do.
Do they?
According to Google, which is owned by the baby Jesus.
Now, just a minute, John.
I'm only Googling it in lowercase letters, though, Lowell. I don't want to offend anybody.
Some of these people, you wonder, like, seriously, are you seriously capable of wiping your bum? I mean, it's amazing.
But Lowell, this is when we've got this thing, in front of us, a computer that has access to every website, every creator. I can launch a website in 30 seconds and make it say anything I want to, and it will show up on a Google search. It doesn't mean it's true. And this is the danger. And I don't know why people, has mainstream media done it to itself with cutback after cutback after cutback that it's just lost so much credibility that nobody believes in it anymore. So they go looking on Google for, and I can't believe I'm even going to use this term, alternate facts.
Alternate facts. I think that's partly to blame. There's also this whole, but I mean, we've always had these conspiracy theorists.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when I was doing the talk show at CFRA, I had people legitimately, and even today, people still believe that it was the Jews and the CIA that blew up 9/11. Okay. And also, we still have people in our midst, and more than a few, who believe that the jet trails are really chemtrails, okay? They're dropping some sort of vicious chemical on us. One of the amazing things about that is that only other people are affected. Their minds are warped, but the people who know this, their minds are still fine. So it's a very selective chemtrail. But we've always had these, and these people will seek out sites, information that confirms their suspicions. So if you think, for example, that the world is being run by a ring of pedophiles, and apparently there's about 1 in 6 Americans believe this. Did you see that? There's a fact for you. Survey indicates about 1 in every 6 Americans believes that the world is being led by a ring of pedophiles. They actually believe that. So if you believe that, folks, you'll believe anything, including, can I tell you something? A lot of people don't know this, but I am really Napoleon, okay? I'll put my hand here. Did he put his hand in with? I'm really Napoleon. I have ridden a horse. I have been in France, and I am Napoleon. Okay, John, how about some more text there?
I'm busy creating a website right now that I am Napoleon.com. Yep, with pink elephants.
With tiny penises.
Tiny penises. And I'm going to put it out there, and we're going to let Google find it. Cindy is back to say that mainstream media is bought and paid for from liberals. Liars, liars, liars. Okay, Cindy, so let me put this to you. You're listening to this broadcast right now. It's happening from Lowell's house in my basement on the internet. Both of us used to work in mainstream media. Are you suggesting that I am bought and paid for, that Lowell is bought and paid for by the liberals? I'd love to hear your answer, Cindy, because
yeah, I think you're making her think, I would hope.
I'd love to hear from you.
The fact of the matter is that since for almost 60 years, I did talk shows in Ottawa, mostly on CFRA, and then CFRB, the number one radio station in Canada at the time in Toronto. And during all of that time, never once was I ever pressured by anyone to take any sort of political stance. Now, I've had people, some station management come down on me, maybe sometimes for swearing, things
sure.
like that. But there was never, in all of those years, and I wouldn't lie to you, there's no reason for me to lie to you. In all of those years, I never had any attempt on behalf of anyone to change my political views or what I said. I had a couple of court cases. One of the greatest things that ever happened to me, one of the things I'm most proud of, is the only time that I ever had to go to court to defend what I said was against the Church of Scientology.
Yep.
I am proud of that. I took the Scientology right to, and the judge threw out every charge they ever laid against me. What happened to the Church of Scientology? They had this, well, there was all sorts of things, but they had the e-meter. It was 2 soup cans.
Yes.
Okay. And you put your feet in water and you held these 2 soup cans that were wired together to some sort of a meter. And that's supposed to give you a reading of how close you were to nirvana. So George Roach, who still is alive, by the way, in his 90s, who was engineering director at CFRA,
Yep.
he made me up what he called the G meter.
Yep.
And it was 2 soup cans, slightly larger soup cans. So I challenged Scientology to an E and G meter contest. I challenged them. Come on the air with me. We'll see whose meter is better. Oh, they did not take kindly to that. So for about 2 years, I made about 4 court appearances because they sued me, and they lost every single time. I'm proud of that. It's the only time that in all of those years that I ever was taken to court, I had to make a couple of apologies, some of which I should not have, but it was the easy way out. But I repeat, for whatever you think of the mainstream media, I was mainstream for many, 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 many years. Never once any attempt to get me change my political point of view or what I said concerning political.
Now, I worked for the same company as Lowell. We worked in the same building for 23 years doing very different things. I was on the music side of things, but still on the music side of things, if you listen to radio at all, the on-air personalities opine. They have opinions, they have takes, they have jokes on things. Not once in 23 years, whether it was Chum, whether it was CTV Globe Media, or whether it was Bell Media, not once did any of my managers try and influence anything that I was saying on the air. So I can vouch. I can vouch for what Lowell's saying. And Cindy's back saying, are you independent now or still mainstream media? Dear God, Cindy.
Okay.
It doesn't get more independent than this.
Any more texts?
Oh my God, Scientologists are mad. Anti-vaxxers existed before COVID, and when COVID is gone, they will set their sights on some other vaccine. Kim says United States is the origin of a lot of conspiracy theories. Barry says now they've developed a vaccine for cervical cancer that should be given to 13 to 15-year-old girls. I wonder what all the fear-mongers and anti-vaxxers will be ogling about on that. Some of the comments coming in right now.
I'll give you a couple of more facts. We're running out of time here.
Sure.
Here is a fact. Chief Sitting Bull. Now, I've mentioned this a couple of times, but it's still largely forgotten or not known. Chief Sitting Bull and several thousand of his warriors fled north into Canada following the Battle of Little Bighorn, during which he wiped out General Custer and his men. Sitting Bull and his warriors were protected here. The United States demanded his return. They threatened to invade, etc., etc. We steadfastly refused, just as we refused in every single case. Thousands of natives fled the Indian Wars. Sorry to use the word, but that's what it was, the Indian Wars, genocidal wars in the United States. They fled north for the protection of what they said was the grandmother, who was Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria, God bless her, said, if you flee north, as a slave, as an escaping slave, or as a native, we will protect you. And we did. We protected natives, and as a consequence, thousands of them are here today because we protected them. We protected them from the Americans who wanted to kill them all. And as far as the Underground Railway and black escaping slaves, folks, the Underground Railway ended here. We should be proud of these things. We've done wrong things, But by God, we've done a lot that's right, too. A lot of natives are alive today because we protected them at risk of ourselves. The Americans finally did invade. And by the way, one of the reasons that most of the natives fought with us and won the war, actually, was because they knew if the Americans won, it was curtains for them. So that's just a little bit of history. And by the way, one more little fact here you might be interested in. Yes, it's true. I checked. Justin Trudeau, God rest him, has now spent more money than all other prime ministers combined since the Second World War. Congratulations, Justin. Thank you all. We'll be back tomorrow with pink elephants, pink rhinoceroses, pink hippopotamuses. Can we at least give them normal-sized penises, please?
We can do that. We will.
Thank you.
That.
We'll be back.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.